I think a part of me always thought that I was this master of grief. Losing a parent at 17 will do that to you. I've been through more therapists than I can count. I've learned about all the different cycles of grief, and I've felt all those feelings. I thought I no longer viewed grief as this shadowy beast, but more like a lamb to tame. Something I could just speak softly to and it would calm and understand where I'm coming from. But this lamb has a wolf behind it. One that watches and waits for one mistake, one slip up, one momentary loss of control. And that's when it strikes. I didn't cry the day I took end-of-life photos with Sage. I didn't cry when the coffee barista asked what kind of photos I was going to be taking with my horse. I didn't even cry when I made the phone call to the vet to schedule her euthanasia. But I cried when I bit my lip. I cried after a long bath. I cried when I picked up a bag of Timothy pellets. Grief doesn't strike when you expect it to, and I should have recognized that from all those small moments after Dad died. But this time around, this grief is different. I know what's coming. I made that call. I chose it this time. And I honestly can't tell if that makes it better or worse. My dad's loss was somewhat sudden. He was perfectly fine Saturday, and we lost him by Wednesday. Sage, however, has been declining for years.
Nice, Sagey. Good girl.
I kept asking myself when it was time to let her go. I've never had this kind of responsibility before, so I was concerned on whether I was keeping her around for her sake or for mine.
Nice.
The biggest shift wasn't her changes in stride or the slight head bobbing. It wasn't the lack of movement or the increased amount of time napping. The biggest shift was in her eyes and in her soul. I knew the moment she didn't want to attempt to step over a ground pole that her time had come. She enjoyed little about life, other than her hay and treats. No longer was this little paint mare the same one that could hike miles of trails, jump higher and higher, help me bring home those shiny trophies, or even the one that would sprint across the arena to show off her tricks. She supported me more than I think she could have realized. She was the one there for me when Dad died in a way that no one else could be. Her mane held plenty of my tears, but I never pictured the day I'd cry for her. It's not her time yet. It can't be her time yet. I'm not ready.
Bye.
But is anyone really ready for the loss of such a bond? Here's the blessing, though. I'm able to say goodbye this time. With Dad, things were so sudden that there wasn't a chance to say anything to him until he was gone. And while he laid in that hospital bed, I just stared at him. I couldn't speak, couldn't cry. I was in full-on lockdown because of the shock of it all. But with Sage, I spent the days ahead grooming her, telling her how much I've appreciated her support, kindness, and teachings. I braided her mane with the utmost care and meticulously brushed out as much dust and dirt as I could. We took a lot of pictures, and on the day her shoes came off, when the rain ceased and the sun peeked out, she showed off all of her moves. This final hurrah of hers has left me with an unbelievable relief and joy. Her memory isn't just her final moments. It's filled with the thought of her rearing and bucking, sprinting and jumping, things I haven't seen her do in months. She got lots of peppermints, a huge bowl of Timothy mash with an exuberant amount of molasses, and an attempt at a carrot cake that she didn't want to eat, shockingly enough. Because if you knew Sage, you knew she'd eat just about anything you put in front of her. The day eventually came for her euthanasia, and I woke up thinking, I'm not ready. But she was. I walked her out of her paddock, scissors in my back pocket, ready at my whim to remove all of her beautiful mane and tail. She wasn't excitable like the last couple days prior. She didn't run and jump, but she snacked and snacked as much as I could give her. We took more photos, and I soaked in every moment I could. And the second her tail was gone, that was the first set of tears for the day. Reality was setting in, and I tried to dig for the positives or humor in the day. Her carrot cake said Sage's TTJ, meaning her transfer to Jesus. Her long tail became the longest forelock she ever had, and I kept telling myself, I'm so glad to give her the gift of no more pain. When the vet pulled up, I held tight to Sage's lead rope. I've been around euthanasias before, plenty of them. In fact, I worked for a vet and was the support for families losing their beloved pets. This was my own horse, though, and while he explained the process, I nodded my head, already knowing the details of what was about to happen. Penny stood behind us, and when Sage laid down for the final time, I held her head in my arms, cradling her and telling her how much I loved her, how grateful I was for her, how lucky I was to have been blessed with her. Her breathing slowed, one final deep breath, and then the only sound left was my sobbing. Penny stood quietly behind me, quieter than she'd been all day. I felt her breath on my neck before she reached down and nuzzled Sage as if to say goodbye. My little herd was no longer the three of us, but just Penny and I. I used Penny as support to stand and pat her neck, both of us looking at what was left of Sage. But she wasn't there anymore, and I knew that, just like I did with Dad. Their bodies are a shell, and their souls were united. All I can ask for is that she can keep Dad company while they wait for us. Thank you, Sage, for being the best partner a 13-year-old girl and a 30-year-old woman could ever ask for. You were everything to me.